The greatest writer of all time was J.R. Tolkien. He wrote The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, as well as 45 other major works. He starts The Hobbit with the following. In a hole in the ground lived a hobbit. Not a nasty, dirty, wet hole filled with the ends of worms and an oozy smell, nor yet a dry, bare, sandy hole with nothing to sit down on or to eat. It was a hobbit hole, and that means comfort. Unlike Tolkien, my game is not a masterpiece, but we do start in a hole, and sadly, this hole does not mean comfort. In a hole in the ground lives a blob. It is a nasty hole filled with the end of worms and horrible monsters, but unfortunately for the monsters, here lives a blob. To follow the same scene, my game does have a story. It's about an alien who, disenfranchised with life, explores a town science fair. This town science fair is much like the government used to do back in the Victorian era, where they would display their wildest treasures for people to wonder at. But for him, it was a little too much. A blob downtrodden by society, no alien sign telling him to keep his hands off the glass or the displays, was going to stop him today. Today, he pursued his dreams of venturing into the stars. He burst through the wall in which it was contained and pushed hastily into the stars. Unfortunately for him, the roses were hot on his tail. As he frantically searched around for a solution, he noticed a mysterious button, which he quizzically pressed, hoping for a solution to present itself, silently baiting his breath that it was not an eject or stop moving button. Time and space itself began to ripple and wane as the nauseating portal ripped itself into existence. He could see what was beginning to form in front of him. A giant red tear ripped itself into the very nothingness of space in which it's named. Without choice, he quieted his subconscious, telling him that the device was doing something wrong, and head inside to escape. As soon as he exited the portal, he noticed his fuel was low and that he was going to crash. He plunged at great speed towards the nearest gravitational body, plunging him into the side of the mountain, where our game begins. These comic panels you've just seen are created by my girlfriend. I'll leave a link in the description for her art that you can follow. She's one of those kind, annoying, talented people that don't even realise it. In conjunction with the comic, I needed to build a dialogue engine. This was so that you have an ability to talk to NPCs, and they'll give you a little bit of info about how they got there, as well as some helpful things like Tutorial Jim that I'm going to demo on the screen right now will tell you how to escape the tutorial room by throwing an item. That's his purpose there. He's going to be a recurring character throughout the game, but it's quite nice to do. This wasn't actually too difficult to do, and I'll show you the code in a second, but you see, you talk to him, you pick up the brain, and then you can throw it through the portal, which is also how you end a dungeon, and you can run through it, and this will put you in your starting room. So, previously we had this dialogue container. This is just like a box with some text inside of it. The message is controlled here. It's part of this group, which is called message, which just allows me to easily access it from anywhere in the code with get all in nodes. I'm going to look into global signals because I know in Godot 4 there's better ways of doing this, but for now that's how this will work. I also added these two new buttons to it. This is the real extension for this devlog in this part, where you can go forward and back. And what that does is basically this is for the time messages, which previously existed, which is just create temporary text, which you saw when you like opened up the rock. This is now create an array of text, so it makes sure that the Q&E is visible. Then it has a counter to run through the stored text to make sure that when you're at the end of it, it closes it. And then it sets the text, set text being the message here, the method that sets text on the message string, if that makes sense. And then it emits the signal, which is on dialog enter, which is this wrapper container here, which is on dialog enter, just sets the dialog container itself to totally visible. Processing the interact button, which is that E button that we're using elsewhere, will increase the counter by 1. And as long as it's still within the range of the stored text, which is the total number of text you're going through. And then it sets the text and emits the signal again, just to make sure that it's still open. And then otherwise it closes it. I touched on this in the last devlog, but we need to finish up the fight stage of the tutorial, where you actually fight an enemy, get some resources, and use those resources to craft things. So what you're seeing on the screen right now is some assets of the snakes. These snakes have 3 main types. There's the red, green, and yellow ones. The yellow ones at the moment are the normal type. They just shoot regular red bullets at you. Technically, maybe that should be the red one. I might flip those out. The green one's going to be a poison one, which leaves me with one that I don't know what I'm going to do with. It's also got a snake tree. This is kind of like a pus-filled infected spawner that you find in the tutorial. The cysts on it pop, and it spawns a snake egg where the snake rapidly comes out of it and then starts fighting you. Upon killing the tree, you can get the resources required to craft the shovel, which clears the thing in the other room. Hopefully you put these two and two together when you're exploring the other rooms. Okay, so with those changes, we've actually got an effective tutorial. It teaches you the core mechanics of the game, although it's not fully comprehensive because there are some things that you'll have to learn through playing the game and exploration, which I think makes it a lot more fun, but this can at least get you in the door. So the first room is going to be your movement room, where you can see the controls to actually be able to move it, which will take you into the hole/rubble room, where if you go over the hole/rubble, it will tell you that you need something to clear it. Go fight the snakes. Once you kill the snakes, you get the resources. Then you take those resources into the craft room, up into the heat press up top there. And then that will give you the shovel that clears the rubble. You jump down, you meet Tutorial Jim. He teaches you how to throw things through portals, which is an important core tenet of the game about how you bring resources back into your home base. Using the new snake stuff, we can now make a few new rooms to add to the random room generation. So here are 3 demo rooms. There's a couple more than this, but I want to show them all in the video so that you can have something fun to play with. These are sped up, so you can see this is what like a shooting enemy type room would look like. These were of course recorded before the changes to the tile maps were made. We'll talk about that later. I then did some updates with regards to health. I allowed you to get partial health hearts, so I drew the assets for the new heart like this. Here is me demoing that you can now take partial health damage from a fly, and there's the death screen. Then I also thought it would be nice if you could get temporary health up, so I introduced this new mob, which is a fly with a heart on it. He does a lot more damage to you, but he's a lot more tanky. But of course, this is what that looks like. So if you interact with him in the dungeon, you end up... you can kill him, he drops a heart, you pick that up, and you get a secondary health bar, but these are temporary health. Then I moved on to updating the blob. So this is what the old cart boss used to look like. This is what he looks like now. Now this isn't finished, so this is a bit of a preview. Here's how that would look like as an end of level boss, a bit better. So he spawns in, and I think he's a bit more creepy, and he fits with the general aesthetic of the game more. A lot of his animations were broken because also during this update, I chose to update to Go.4, which is part of the reason why the gap between productions was so long. So I'm still fixing some of the animations crossing between them. Okay, so also I want to address in this devlog is the idea of base building and further base expansion. So I touched on this very lightly in the very first incarnation of a devlog. Here where I'm like, you can get dirt and you can place that, and that's for crop growing, which happens over the long duration. So even when you're outside of the game, and also, you know, if you're in the middle of a dungeon raid, etc. So you plant lots of these crops, and you can get new resources out of them. Sorry, that's my camera zoom script is a little broken there. It's reversed since I've updated to Go.4. That's a bug I need to fix. Which is all well and good for resource gathering. Like you can speed this up by having, if you've got a watering can, take an empty one here, you fill it up with water, and you also get watered soil here. This makes it faster. But that's not the only thing. You got like a lot of machines here. These temporarily show you like recipes. Oh, also I've updated the UI here. I've done quite a lot of things. It's been a few months, so you can get a slightly better idea of the things you craft inside of them. But these are build flags. Now, build flags are the way that you place the machines. You hold on E and you place a flag, and you get the list of buildable items that are possible for you. So, for example, here's a bucket. Crafting requirements are this, and so then you can bring these resources over to this build flag, and it will place you down a bucket. It also allows you to remove the flag, so you no longer want them. And of course, all of this is supported in the new saving engine. These crops grow really fast now because I'm in testing, but normally they'll take a lot longer than that to grow. I'll also now show you the hats, which I think are quite cool. I've had to build a hat engine. Now, hats are a pretty high desirability item, I think. You're going to have to work quite hard to get different hats. This is my personal favorite at the moment. This is the pirate hat. I'll demo the other few hats that are in there currently. This is the straw hat. It's monodirectional, unlike the pirate hat, so it's only got one sprite for the direction it folds. So this will be like a lower tier hat. This is a variation on the straw hat. This is currently monodirectional, but really should be multi-directional like the pirate hat. It has a feather in its little brim, and it's a little bit more scuffed around the edges than the other hat. And lastly, but not leastly, this is the dunce hat, which is a kind of, I've added so that I could give a gift to my friend who's testing the game a little bit. I think this might be a singular exclusive hat that you can get in the game, because of course you'll be able to trade items between other players, but I think this will be one that you can't do. You just get a dunce hat, and that's the only way you can get it. So that brings us to the conclusion of this devlog. I'm going to include more things on the next devlog about pre-existing things that are already in the game. So we've already got power-ups and dungeons that we need to go over. We've also got dungeon generation, adding secret rooms to that currently. I would love to talk a little bit more about my infinite algorithm for generating dungeons as you run through them, but I don't want this devlog to get too long. I also want to find more interesting ways of demoing the code that I've put into the game. I'm yet to find an interesting way to keep that really engaging. I'm going to try doing some streams and see how that works out, because I think that will give me some heads up about future improvements there. So I really hope you enjoyed tuning into this one. Please subscribe and keep up to date with the game as I build it. It's taking me hundreds of hours to build. It would be lovely if I could have you coming along with it while I do it. Thanks. Goodbye.